You are the strong friend, the one people call when their lives fall apart like IKEA furniture without instructions. The one who gives advice while cooking dinner, fixing the Wi-Fi, and emotionally coaching a colleague simultaneously. You're the emotional support human, the one who always answers, always shows up, always holds it together. You're a warm, capable, insightful, and low-maintenance emotional vending machine. People insert a problem, you dispense wisdom. Maybe a quote, possibly a meme, occasionally a Google Doc. But what happens when you need something? Crickets. You mention feeling tired. Someone responds, "That's so unlike you." Yes, because you've been performing theater-level resilience for years. Because you learned a long time ago that being strong made you valuable, and being needy made people disappear. Let's just say, you didn't become the strong friend by accident. Somewhere along the way, being reliable stopped being an option and became your identity. You learned that people stay when you're stable, that your mess needs to be manageable or else it becomes someone else's excuse to ghost you. So you tucked your chaos into little corners and kept showing up, calm, present, funny, and because you did it well, no one questioned it. No one asks, "Hey, you okay?" Because you don't look like someone who needs checking on. You look like someone who has a spreadsheet for emotional emergencies. You laugh in the face of burnout. You organize your grief into folders. You put your pain on a timer because someone else just texted, "Hey, do you have a minute?" And you do. You always do. This is how the cycle forms. You become the fortress. You get known as the one who handles things. And pretty soon, people stop imagining you as someone who feels. You're the one who never breaks. Which is weird, because you cry in your car like it's a paid subscription. Let's be honest. Being the strong friend often feels like being the emotional equivalent of a fire extinguisher. You are needed only in times of crisis. You're valued, but rarely seen. You're crucial, but never celebrated. It's not malicious. People don't hate you. They admire you, deeply. But admiration is not intimacy. You've become known for your strength, not your soul. And the worst part, you helped build that version of you. Why? Because being strong was safer than being soft. Being helpful was easier than being honest. Because being low maintenance was rewarded while being vulnerable was awkward. So now here you are, everyone's go-to, and somehow simultaneously forgotten. It's exhausting. And worse, it's lonely. But it's the kind of loneliness you can't admit to without confusing everyone. Wait, you feel unsupported? But you're you. Exactly. You're so good at supporting others that people forget support is a two-way street. They treat you like emotional Google Maps. Reliable, useful, and always on call. And slowly, that becomes the story. That you're okay. Always okay. Even when you're not. Let's unpack how you got here. Because strong friend syndrome doesn't just appear out of nowhere like a bad rash or a weird houseplant you didn't remember buying. No, this was cultivated. This was rehearsed. You were taught that strength is what earns love. Maybe not directly. No one handed you a childhood pamphlet titled, "How to Emotionally Disappear in 3 Easy Steps." But it was implied. Maybe it was the parent who only smiled when you succeeded. The teacher who praised you for being quiet and low maintenance. The friends who only called when they were in crisis. Somewhere, the message landed. You are easiest to love when you are easiest to manage. So you adapted. You built your personality like a Swiss Army knife. Multi-purpose, dependable, and compact. You became emotionally efficient. The kind of person who asks, "How can I help?" while bleeding out from 12 emotional stab wounds of your own. It was noble. It was impressive. It was also completely unsustainable. Because here's the catch. When you're always the stable one, people forget you have limits. They assume you're an emotional adult even when you're barely holding your inner child together with duct tape and sleep-deprived optimism. You say, "I'm fine," and they believe you. Not because they don't care, but because they need you to be fine. Your strength has become a security blanket for them. You're just left freezing in the cold. And that's where it starts to hurt. Not because you expect everyone to read your mind, but because at some point, you hope someone would notice. That someone would say, "Hey, I know you've got it together, but do you need anything?" But instead, silence. Or worse, confusion. You open up a little, and suddenly everyone's weird about it. Whoa, didn't expect you to say that. Struggling. You're always so strong. Translation. Please return to the role we cast you in. It makes us uncomfortable when you step out of character. And now you're stuck. Because if you admit you're tired, you break the myth of your own invincibility. But if you stay silent, you stay alone. It's the emotional version of being asked to lift a couch, then being judged for grunting. So you joke. You deflect. You offer sage advice with a wink and a meme. Because vulnerability feels risky. And you've seen what happens when people get too real. It makes others flinch. Or worse, ghost. Strong friend syndrome is not just about how others treat you. It's about how you treat yourself, how you hide your own needs to stay likable, how you emotionally sanitize your truth so it's palatable. And let's not forget the ultimate twist. People come to you because you seem put together. They unload their burdens, cry, vent, and walk away feeling lighter. But you're left carrying their baggage, like a coat rack piled high with jackets no one comes back to claim. Here's the irony. The strong friend often becomes the most emotionally malnourished person in the group. You're overfed on secrets and underfed on support. So what do? You start to wonder if it's just you. Maybe you're too needy. Maybe you expect too much. Maybe you should just meditate harder and stop being dramatic. Or maybe you're just tired of being the emergency contact for people who wouldn't text you back if the roles reversed. Let's talk about the performance. Because that's what this has become, right? A one-person show. You're the lead actor, stage manager, lighting tech, and emotional janitor sweeping up after everyone else's breakdowns. And your audience? They love the strong friend. They applaud your wisdom. They marvel at how well you hold it all together. They just never ask what happens when the curtain falls. The truth is, most people don't know how to handle your falling apart. You've trained them to expect strength, not softness. Competence, not cracks. You've delivered your lines so flawlessly that the moment you forget one, they panic. And not for you, for themselves. Because your reliability was their backup plan. This is what happens when strength becomes your costume. People stop asking what's underneath it. And you? You start to believe the costume is who you are. You forget that vulnerability isn't a malfunction, it's a feature. That needing help doesn't make you weak. That friendship isn't a performance review where emotional transparency counts as a deduction. But of course, that's hard to remember when your inbox is a constant stream of "can I call you real quick?" or "you're so good at advice," or "I don't know who else to talk to." Let's be honest, you're the designated emotional concierge. The concierge doesn't cry. The concierge doesn't vent. The concierge doesn't send 2 a.m. texts like, "Hey, am I fundamentally unlovable or just dehydrated?" But you've typed that message, maybe even deleted it, because what if they don't respond? Worse, what if they try to respond and you see the ... and then it disappears? Now you're spiraling. This is what we call toxic resilience. The belief that being unaffected makes you safe, that your only value is your invincibility. You don't just survive stress, you optimize it. You set it to music. You turn it into a podcast. You make burnout look like a wellness trend. But inside, you're tired. Not the kind of tired that a nap fixes. The kind that builds up from years of being everyone's anchor. And anchors are heavy, especially when no one offers to lift. Here's a radical idea. You deserve to be soft. You deserve to send the text that says, "Hey, I need you today." You deserve to be messy, unfiltered, irrational, to cry without turning it into a joke, to not have a solution. You deserve to not carry everyone else's weight just because you've gotten good at hiding your own. Because let's face it, you didn't sign up to be the team's unpaid therapist. You didn't apply for the role of life coach, trauma interpreter, and crisis hotline all rolled into one. You just wanted connection. But what you got was a job. The strong friend job description. Must be emotionally available 24/7. Must suppress needs. Must have answers, but never have questions. Must remain calm during other people's storms. Must be flattered when overlooked. Salary. 0. Benefits. Occasional "you're so amazing" texts that arrive when they need something. But here's what you don't realize. You deserve better. You deserve friendships where care flows both ways. Where saying, "I'm not okay," doesn't make the conversation awkward. It makes it real. Because strength isn't silence. Strength is being seen. So now we arrive at the part no one told you existed. What happens when the strong friend, yes, you, decides to stop playing the role? What happens when you drop the script, walk off stage, and say, "I'm actually a human being and not a highly evolved advice robot with Bluetooth and childhood trauma"? Well, things get weird at first. People don't know what to do with a strong friend who starts setting boundaries. They stare at your no like it's written in an ancient language. They hesitate. They fumble. Some quietly vanish like ninjas. And it hurts, because you weren't just playing a role, you built relationships around it. And now that you're no longer the one holding up the scaffolding, things start to wobble. But let them. Let the silence expand. Let the distance settle. Let the people who only showed up when you were holding space find somewhere else to vent. Because this is your reset. You're not trying to become cold. You're trying to become congruent. The strong friend mask was functional, but it wasn't all you were. You showed up for everyone, and now it's time to show up for yourself. And here's the wild part. You don't have to be less strong to stop being the strong friend. You're not weaker for needing rest. You're not selfish for wanting support. You're not dramatic for asking to be checked on without being in crisis. You're human, and humans are allowed to get tired. You're allowed to wake up and not be the wise one, the calm one, the one who's got this. You're allowed to send a 3 a.m. text that says, everything feels like garbage. Even if you spent the afternoon giving someone a pep talk about inner peace, you're allowed to need the thing you've become known for giving. And if people can't hold that version of you, let them go. Because real connection doesn't just admire your strength, it holds space for your softness. Here's what you do. You stop offering 24/7 emotional support and instead start building connections with people who care about you. No more potlucks where you cook, serve, and clean while everyone else just shows up with a fork and an appetite. How do you go about it? Start small. Answer honestly when someone asks how you're doing. Ask for help before you break. Be raw on purpose. Say no when you can't take it anymore. And watch who stays. Because some people, bless their codependent hearts, won't know what to do with the new you. The new you with boundaries. The one who no longer mistakes self-abandonment for love. But the ones who do stay, those are your people. The ones who check on you, just because. The ones who hold space without needing a performance. The ones who say, you don't always have to be strong for me to love you. Those people, keep them. And the rest? You don't need to explain. Because your worth was never meant to be measured by your usefulness. It was always in your humanness, just as you are, even when you're the one who needs holding. So go ahead, break the character. Drop the role. Take the cape off. You're not the strong friend. You're a whole person. And that, in all its messy, beautiful, and unpredictable glory, is more than enough.